so interesting about news that it's always got good elements and bad elements in it. So we went to the appointment yesterday, and the news is really, really good. It's really good. This is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it is really treatable by chemotherapy. The doctor that we saw has been doing this stuff for 15 years. She's really onto it. She's cutting edge. She and Callum were talking about some study that they were doing to bring some new treatment in, and some guy in Wellington was setting it up. They were talking about the highest level of New Zealand's participation in the search for a solution to cancer. It was quite amazing and quite sort of humbling to be in the presence of a practitioner who's so dedicated to what she does. So she gave him treatment yesterday. She gave him some steroids. She said 72 hours, and he should notice a significant difference, and he should notice a lessening of pain as the initial death of cells has started. Apparently, the aim of this treatment is to kill every single B cell in the body, every single B cell, which leaves the person terribly immunocompromised for 6 months. But then after that 6 months, the B cells all regenerate with no defects at all. And so you begin again with a new set of B cells. So that's the theory. And she was very determined that they were talking about cure and not about treatment. And so, yay and great, and isn't that wonderful? And then she said, every person is different, and there's about a 50-50 chance that it could go this way. So there's about a 50% chance that it would not be about cure. However, the treatment started, and that's very good. And it's not a great big anticlimax. It's not another hurry up and wait, and we can't tell you anything, and oh, you just have to do your best. And it's actually started. And so today, experiencing this sort of letdown, like there always is after a great big climax in your life, there's always the anticlimax the next day. And so the anticlimax is here today, and it's not bad. It just is. The one thing that's still unknown is another result that they're waiting on from the biopsy, which is for a second presence, a second cancer presence, which is much more aggressive, and will mean that the treatment has to be changed to obviously a more aggressive treatment, I suppose. So that's in the future. We're doing this cycle of treatment, which are the pills that have been given now, which are for the next, I don't know if she said 4 days or 5 days. And then starting next week, we don't know which day, not Tuesday, because on Tuesday there is a strike of the junior doctors in the hospital. So we know there will be no treatment of patients on the Tuesday. However, one of the other days he will go in, he will spend the whole day in hospital. They talked about different drugs and how different drugs worked. I didn't listen to that bit. I was just like, ooh, I hope it goes well. And so they infuse something, and then they infuse another thing, and then they give drugs. He's there all day from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. I drop him off and I go back and get him. He feels sick for maybe 3 days, but then it's okay again, and then he goes back in 3 weeks' time, and he does 6 cycles of that. And then at the end of that, there are follow-up scans and tests, and see if it's been eliminated. It can't be that easy, obviously, but that's what we've got for now. So that's the next step. That's what we're facing. So the other thing that's a little bit of a complication on top of the thing about that aggressive cancer that might still be lurking in the background and we don't know. The other thing is that there is presence of other tumors in the diaphragm or in the rib cage, I don't know, somewhere in the chest and somewhere in the neck. There are other tumors. However, that could not be a big issue at all, because the aim and object of the treatment is to kill every single B cell that there is, so it doesn't really matter where it is. Anyway, so yes. Really, really good positive news and really, really scary unknowns. So yeah, right in the middle of it all. And life continues and things go on. And now, hopefully, we're going to get into a bit of a pattern. Yeah, because of the strike, we're not going to get into a pattern straight away, so I won't be able to go back right into making videos and things, but I have realized now that there have been advantages to stepping back and allowing these waves to settle around me. But there is a disadvantage, and that is that I'm getting bored and lonely again. So starting to flesh out the next series of videos and chats that we're going to do, because yeah, what we were doing then is over, isn't it? And this is new, all new, and so getting into a new rhythm. And one of the things that I've been noticing over the years as I've tried to fight off this mental illness, bad habits, unskillfulness, whatever it is, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is the cyclical nature of this pattern that I'm in, this pattern of always generating tragedy, trauma, drama, rejection, abandonment, it's just a horrible thing. But what I've noticed about the cyclical nature of it is that the pattern in the Bible is the pattern of the cycles that happen in life. And it fascinates me that there's this book called the Bible that is sort of the distillation of, I don't know how many thousands of years of the spiritual quest of one tribe of men on earth, and how these men who wandered around in a very inhospitable climate and environment, they lived in a desert, they lived with dead things all around them, without water to wash in, with lots of germs, no medicine, this really rough, primitive life that they lived. And they developed this code of cleanliness to try and keep themselves alive. And because they were so focused on staying alive in their physical worlds, this translated into spiritual thoughts of life and being alive. And they told each other wonderful stories, wonderful stories of how could the earth have started, and what is the meaning of life, and what happens when we have to choose between right and wrong, and what are the consequences of making bad choices. Just, particularly when you're the leader of a group of people. And what happens when you fall out of communion with the creative force that flows through us because we're inhabited by this strange force that's called life. And all these wonderful, amazing stories that are all caught up in this little book, this grand, epic narrative of this family. Started off with one guy who wasn't all that great, to be honest, but he had something. He went off on a journey, and here we are today. And in these stories that this group of people told, there emerged a pattern. And over the years, the stories were edited and re-edited and composed and recomposed and put together and lost and found and retold. And one of the central themes that emerged was that if we keep on going along this path of striving for understanding the pinnacle experiences of life, then what will happen is that we are going to generate an amazing individual. Out of us, somebody is going to be born who is going to be so good, they're going to really get it. Because this is what happens in the patterns, you know. You get to that place where you get the pinnacle of the outcome, the ultimate karma of that line of reasoning and progression. Anyway, this might be getting a bit long. Yeah, it is getting a bit long. So, for thousands of years, these primitive people thought about these things, and they developed this mythology that the perfect man would come, and that when the perfect man came and got it and was just lovely to be around, and everybody wanted to hear his teaching and was uplifted by him and felt miraculous things happen in their life when they were in his presence. He was just such a great dude. And the response of the world was to torture him and brutally murder him. And yet, that hideousness, being able to understand and appreciate that tragedy, is something that sets us free to walk away from suffering, to walk away from that type of tragedy, and to accept salvation, the salvation that comes 3 days later, the realization that we still go on, that there is more, that we can do this. And so we've got this pattern that over thousands of years, they lived out this story in the desert and building their cities and having their temples and being destroyed by other countries. And then they took this entire history of all these thousands of years and they shrank it down into these few little stories that they told once a week to their people. And they went through all these stories to remind them of their identity and who they are and the striving for being something more, something better, for really trying. Over thousands of years, it comes down to a few stories. And then, finally, the perfect man does come. And everything that they said would happen does happen. And he is rejected. And we incorporate those stories too in another tiny little section that we add on to those olden days stories. And then we learn from them, and we learn the stories when we're kids. And we develop them, and we reject them, and we fight with them, and we elaborate upon them, and we come to a place where we understand that story that is in the Bible from the beginning of time until that amazing missive that we have right at the end, which is this secret code message to a persecuted and vilified minority. Have this extraordinary thousands of years worth of story condensed down into this little book. All the different stories that you can imagine, kings and prophets and murder and rape and brutality and homosexuality and betrayal and fraud and everything you can think of, and joy and resurrection and triumph and marriage and love and reverence and holiness and being admirable. It's so good. Anyway, yeah, so all those things. So you take that book, that whole book with all those different stories and everything, and you see that that is the pattern of your day. Wake up in the morning to this beautiful world where everything is good. You're faced with this choice between good and evil. What is your day going to be today? Are you going to choose good? Are you going to choose bad? Are you going to stay within the paradise, the Garden of Eden, and walking with God? Or are you going to walk away from that and choose knowledge and the material world? Because you can do that too. You can be cast out of Eden should you wish. And then you go through everything. You go through the wanderings in the deserts and the feeding your family and the making the decisions of the leadership of your unit. And are you one of the kings today who did all the things that was right in God's sight? Or are you one of the kings today that got everything wrong today, and God turned his face away from you today? Oh man, oh man. And then the sacrifice that you make for your family, for your people, for yourself, for the world, where you put mankind before you and you sacrifice your individuality on that cross and you let your suffering go. And you know that, like, Jesus has already done that. We've already had people throughout history who have suffered terrible, terrible, terrible things, and it doesn't change anything. So leave our suffering with them, or walk away from it and walk into this building the new church, building the community, reaching out to different people, being the Apostle Paul, facing these really big questions about whether there are men and women, Greeks and Romans, slaves and free, you know, all these things that we need to grapple with in the quiet moments in between the busy bits of our day. And then at the end of the day, you come to revelation, your dreams, your future, all the bits that don't make sense, the visions and the symbolism and the metaphor, and then you die until tomorrow when creation begins again. And so it's very difficult for me to be able to interact with people on a very one-to-one nuts and bolts level. I want to thank you all for all the messages that are getting to me through all the different people. Thank you for understanding how difficult it is for me to talk to people in person. And thank you that you're all finding little ways to send me messages. I'm accepting and acknowledging that you're reaching out to me, and trying not to behave in an inappropriate way, as if you were criticizing me and telling me that I'm doing wrong. I'm trying to understand that you're just reaching out to me with little gestures and little words of encouragement and conversations about me. It's so lovely when I hear that you've taken 10 minutes out of your day to talk about me and to wonder about me and to put that energy into me. I feel that it flows through the ethers and it strengthens me to know that, I don't know, you put some energy into the consciousness that's going to feed my decision making. But anyway, so yes, explaining to you how very abstract my world is and my reasoning and understanding. I'm hoping that you're getting from that why I battle to respond to you quickly, and why it seems that I don't answer your emails, and it seems to you that I don't answer your posts, and they're deep, deep, deep inside my soul, and I'm trying to deal with it. I'm trying to deal with the fact that I'm not alone, that you all are suffering. All of you are suffering too. And it's because you're suffering that you understand that I'm suffering. Thank you. Thank you for your advice and normalizing things for me and helping me to understand that even though I feel that this is the dark night of the soul and I'm all alone, all on my lonely, cold corner of this rainy, miserable planet. In fact, I'm not. I'm part of the sunshine and the happiness and the triumph and the rising above of everybody, all of us together, trying to do this thing, trying to do this thing, this complicated, difficult, hard, difficult thing of loving the unlovable people, because at all levels we are all contaminated, deeply contaminated. Even the most wonderful, lovely, compassionate, kind, caring people are so twisted and misinformed from somebody's perspective. So, yeah, okay. Right, well, geesh, a lot of energy there, guys. A lot of energy being released into the ether through these sounds that I make. Isn't it amazing that I sit here and I make all these sounds, and they go into your ears and you make pictures in your head, and you have been there too. Okay, yes, we're getting to that part of the morning. So I have a lot of things to do. I've got a book to read and emails to reply to and videos to edit and a routine to put in place and messages to listen to and promptings to follow and a life to live and the courage, the winds of courage that have blown. And I need to find the calendar. I need to find the calendar of the souls and the glass beads and do the thing that I think I'm sort of understanding. Anyway, I'm not quite understanding it, but if I do it, then I'll understand it, because that seems to be the secret. That seems to be the secret. Right here, right now, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you're not doing a good thing, change it and do a good thing. So, yes, I've had a wonderful talk. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for all the things that I've just said thank you about. Thank you about those again. And, yep. Right, I've just got to get more speedy so I can do more of these things all at once. Right, and yeah, catch up with you guys later, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Wonderful day. And, yeah, speak to you a little bit later today. See you guys. Cheers.